let me quickly run through the mesh baking and then we'll go through what happened here. Of course, File, New, select your mesh. Let's do it. File, New, select your mesh, click OK. It comes in, obviously, not with textures, but just a mesh. I go into Big Mesh Maps, and I will pick the high definition mesh. Most of the settings are default. It's not much to change. I only have here match by mesh name instead of always, and my low poly and high poly. So if you recall how we renamed all the meshes, this is where they come in, and it does a good job. So some of the changes, the only ones I think, is in position. I have this set to full scene because I have a lot of different meshes. I still want here to pick the position map to pick up the whole scene, the whole mesh. So that's what this will do. Curvature, I might decrease this if the sampling radius is a little too low, or I might increase this to 0.1 in some cases, especially for low poly to low poly baking. But for this, the default was all right. Ambient occlusion, also nothing changed here. One to keep note is ignore backface. You can see if this needs changing. This is basically if you have some details like, it's actually all the settings. If you have details like, say, this guy sitting on top. So it's whether you want to bake the ambient occlusion underneath it, or if you don't. Might come in handy in some places. But those are the only settings I usually play around with. Okay, let's, texture layer. Let's just check it out, what's going on here. Turn off everything. Don't know if well, let's actually keep it on. And turn on these guys. Oops, there we go. Give it a moment. The layers build up. It gets a little bit slow. It's still okay while working. It's just here now when it's turning everything off and on. Wait, I left something on. It's the cleanup. Yeah, okay. So my base is this. Again, I'm in base color. I haven't really used any of the other maps besides base color and normal maps. You see, otherwise it's kind of ugly here because from the paint strokes I'm painting normal maps because I'm kind of selecting the material each time, sampling the material, so it messes up, but I don't care. I'm not using it. You'll find this kind of TR stylized texture, which is a little add-on I bought on ArtStation. And what it does is just has all these kinds of options, which is basically all the stuff you do have in Substance Painter, but it's so nicely put together in a little package and makes the layer stack much more clean. So because it's just one layer that does all of this, just one layer. My overlay is also messing up, so that's not on. There we go. From nothing to this. Obviously I have the details baked, so it's kind of taking into account with a curvature from whatever I have baked. You see. But it's going to be a position map for the gradient. It's going to be a curvature generator for the curvature. There's a few light options that I don't think I've used. Yeah, it's at 0. This would also add some 3D-ness. So light 1, I can move it around. Now this mesh doesn't show it off that well, but it's a really strong, powerful tool to keep things clean and organized. It's just that, yeah, for this mesh, it wasn't too crazy. But again, I know this is an add-on that I bought, but you have the tools at your hands. It's just a few extra steps. Without it, I will link to this if you're interested. I'm not affiliated in any way. I just really do enjoy using it. I think it's a great little generator because it comes in on a fill layer as a generator. Just select it, then you make sure it uses only color because it's going to mess up if you use any others. And yeah, and then just a bunch of little settings in one place to work with, and it's very convenient. But again, what I'm looking for here is basically a full-on gradient, a bit of curvature, maybe some cavities if I can get some details out of there, ambient occlusion, perhaps. Trying not to overdo it. Then I will do the ugliest blocking in the world. This is painted with a mouse, but that's just gonna guide myself to a bit of an indication of what I want, which is a bit of color variation. Where do some of the details go in? I'm only worrying about one side. If I go into UVs, this is how my UVs look. So see, I have one side of the blade, I have one side of this, and the rest is a unique map. You will notice that this is not how the final texture looks, and that's because it is not the final texture. After I've done this, I've moved on to Photoshop to do some cleaner, nicer painting just because I'm a bit more comfortable there. And then I brought the texture back in another file, which we'll go through as well. So that's why this was a little bit more complex setup together, the model and the texturing part. All right, let's start painting. Again, using my trusty hard brush. That it is just the adjusted hard brush from here. Yeah, basic hard. That's all it is. Painting. Let me turn it off again. I have this, and then I just paint. So I'm capturing more of the edges, trying to capture some highlights, making it feel a bit like metal. It would be nice if I named these, but I did not. But it's probably just because it's more paint. Oops, this one. It's a bit of cleanup, a bit of trying to capture some reflections here, adding bigger spotches so it's not all, again, this kind of stuff starting to stand out. If I zoom out, it's like a bit ugly. Just kind of blend it together so you still have the tip sort of reading as one. There's a little bit of details for interest. Again, more of a flat shape, some reflections. Next thing is more of an overall cleanup as well, trying to add even more color variation. Let's turn it back on. Applying it on the whole thing to bring those details together, so it's kind of reads more as one. This is still kind of messy. I'm not getting the definition between these different planes, blade shape. It's kind of, 1, 2, 3, 4, but the only separation is the curvature. So I want to make it a little bit nicer. So I just paint. So choose this side is a bit brighter, this is a bit darker. There's some matter color variation, more interest in here. There's a little bit of difference between this whole side and this whole side. Difference to the blade here as well. Reflection I put on another layer, which is, well, a good idea to do in case it's not going to work out. So you see it's just adding a bit of reflections here and a few more interesting details being emphasized that I've lost in the previous layer. Now roughness is probably something of, is it actually gonna be, I don't even see doing anything. Must have been me just trying out if I would need roughness for these, but quickly deciding that no, I would not. So this can be off. And yeah, the way I separate it is I will create a group. On top of the group, I'll create a black mask. And then when I have the mask selected, if I click 4, I'll go into this polygon fill option. Then I'll just go by object, UV, polygon, whichever, however you brought the model in. This case, if I alt click on the mask, you see that's my only white. So that's the only one I'm working on. Click here, then that's included as well. Of course, it won't do anything because that's the third option, but you see all the adjustments from the very first layer would be on here as well. I don't want it. I have white, I'll click X, now it's black, click on it, and it's black. So that's a quick way to just build a base mask on top of the whole thing. Now the other ones are done, and pretty much the same way. Taking a look at the guard, it's really nothing new. It's all the same process as it was for the blade. If I turn it off, could be a few different settings under here, but still I'm trying to get the gradient, a bit of light on the top, darker on the bottom, and get some curvature going on everywhere. With that as the base, a bit more curvature because I want it to bleed into it a little bit more. And then I just paint on top of that. So first some sort of simpler blocking. See, to add these kind of separations, just to make the flat shape look a bit more interesting. And then paint a little bit more on top, like little details. Not really cracks, but just sort of surface definition, trying to define what this material is, even though I'm not too sure what this material is. I'm almost imagining it as being sort of bone or something like that. Pretty much all these are done in that same way. If I go into straps, it's also base, and then painting. Could be different uses of some elements. Yeah, this is inverted curvature. If we go and just see the mask, this is how it looks on the straps. Under here you have global invert. So I have a pretty high curvature, but I'm inverting it, so in a way I'm just getting the cavities sort of. This is just to add that little bit of darkness into the shapes that I sculpted. Again, just more curvature and a bit of painting. These I'm kinda, whereas this had a sort of top-down gradient, separating the different shapes. Here I'm trying to have the front face just a bit brighter than the side faces. A bit harsh here. Handle. Kind of the same thing, even less, just because I didn't feel like going around and painting each and every one in Substance Painter. So fill in, give it a bit more saturation, and then test with just to see if I want each of these lines to be a bit separate color. But so when I zoom out, it looks a bit too noisy. So I decided to get rid of it. There's enough surface details, so it doesn't need any more sort of material details in there. Leave that off. And then metals, it's just all these parts, which is approached in the very same way. These are just separated into this gold and then this metal. Just very quickly, that's how the plugin looks. Super rough painting and a bit of cleanup. And from here is just overall painting on the whole thing. Tighten things up. See, I have things kind of defined a bit more, but since I've had my planned out sketch, it's easy to go around it. So I go around the whole thing. And on top of that, I do a little overlay. Kind of push certain elements even more. And now I can move on to Photoshop for further work.